Hey there and welcome to Scandal Steep. Tiffany Henyard, the current mayor of Dalton, has found herself at the center of a growing storm of controversy. From being accused of neglecting her rent payments to allegedly using taxpayer dollars for personal gain, Henyard's tenure as mayor is quickly becoming a spectacle of chaos, power struggles, and legal entanglements. This piece delves into the latest developments surrounding Henyard's administration, shedding light on the mounting frustrations from both the city's residents and its legal representatives. Imagine attending a routine city council meeting. You're expecting the usual discussions about local issues, decisions on public policies, and perhaps a few votes on minor matters. Instead, you walk into what can only be described as a chaotic spectacle, akin to a reality TV show. This was the scene at a recent Dalton City Council meeting, where Mayor Tiffany Henyard, embroiled in legal trouble over unpaid rent, seemed to relish every opportunity to assert her dominance over the proceedings. Henyard has long been accused of using her position for personal gain, including allegations that she's mismanaged taxpayer funds. This tension was palpable when council member Kiana Caro attempted to dial in for the meeting remotely. What should have been a routine request was instead met with a sharp dismissal from Henyard, who arrogantly told Caro that if she hadn't been present in person, she shouldn't have bothered joining the meeting at all. This set the tone for the rest of the gathering. Henyard was not there to collaborate but to assert her authority in a very public display of power. While the council meeting was a disaster in its own right, it was only the latest chapter in Henyard's tumultuous time as mayor. On the agenda for the meeting were critical issues, including the approval of minutes from the previous gathering and a proposed tax refund for residents. This refund, which would have benefited Dalton citizens to the tune of over $2 million, should have been a moment of unity for the community. Instead, it was overshadowed by Henyard's ongoing theatrics. Chris Gonzalez, a member of the council, had apparently had enough. Frustrated by Henyard's handling of the meeting, he decided to leave, effectively ending any chance of voting on the proposed tax refund. Henyard, ever defiant, tried to shift the blame onto Gonzalez, accusing him and the other council members of failing to do their jobs. However, it's hard to see how anything could get done when Henyard is running the show with such an iron grip. While Henyard was busy creating turmoil at City Hall, she was also facing personal legal trouble. According to reports, Henyard and her partner, Kamal Woods, have failed to pay rent on their Dalton home for months. Their landlord, Janetta Houle, who once considered Henyard a friend, is now seeking to evict the couple for their overdue rent payments, which have reportedly accumulated to over $5,000. In addition to the unpaid rent, Houle claims that Henyard and Woods changed the locks on the property to keep her out, further complicating the situation. Imagine renting a property to the mayor of your town, only to find that she stops paying rent and locks you out of your own home. It's hard to believe that someone in such a position of authority would treat a private citizen in this manner. Yet, this appears to be exactly what's happening, and it's no wonder Houle has turned to legal channels to try to resolve the issue. It's even more perplexing when you consider Henyard's and Woods' combined salaries, which reportedly exceed $300,000, all funded by taxpayers. Despite their substantial incomes, they've allegedly failed to pay rent, leaving their landlord in a difficult financial situation. Houle, frustrated with the situation, has expressed disbelief that someone in Henyard's position, a public official, would behave in such a reckless and irresponsible manner. The saga doesn't end with rent disputes. Henyard is also under federal investigation for her handling of city finances. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to conduct an audit of Dalton's financial records, and the findings have been shocking. In 2022, the city had a general fund balance of over $5 million, but by May 2024, that figure had plummeted to a deficit of $365 million. How does a city go from financial stability to such a severe deficit in such a short time? The investigation revealed that Henyard had been using the city's credit card to make a range of questionable purchases. From shopping sprees at stores like Amazon, Target, and Wayfair to extravagant trips, the expenses seem to have no clear justification. One particularly egregious example occurred in January 2023, when Henyard allegedly spent $43,000 on Amazon. To put that into perspective, that's more than many people make in a year, and it's hard to see how such spending could be justified as serving the interests of the people of Dalton. Further scrutiny revealed that Henyard had used taxpayer money to fund luxury trips, including stays at high-end hotels like the Four Seasons in Atlanta and the Marriott Horseshoe in New York City. Henyard claims these trips were taken to build relationships and attract investment to the town, but it's hard to understand how flying first class and staying in five-star accommodations benefits the citizens of Dalton. Meanwhile, the town itself is drowning in debt, struggling to pay vendors and employees, and facing cuts to essential services. Another area of concern highlighted in Lightfoot's investigation was the use of overtime for police officers. According to the findings, 2 officers were paid more in overtime than their actual annual salaries. One officer, whose base salary was $87,195, earned an additional $14,800 in overtime, while another officer with a salary of $73,515 earned $10,277 in overtime. The question arises, why are these officers earning more in overtime than they do in their regular pay, and how is this affecting the city's budget? Henyard's use of police officers as part of her personal security detail has also raised eyebrows. While the town is grappling with rising crime rates and a shortage of officers available to patrol the streets, Henyard has been using taxpayer-funded officers to protect herself. Critics argue that this is not only an expensive practice but one that leaves residents vulnerable, as fewer officers are available to keep the community safe. All of this has led to mounting discontent among Dalton's residents. While Henyard continues to defend her actions, claiming that her spending is necessary to attract investment and foster relationships, many residents are skeptical. They feel that her lavish spending on personal comforts, such as luxury travel and high-end hotels, is a slap in the face to those who are struggling in a town facing financial ruin. Meanwhile, essential services are being cut, and infrastructure is crumbling. One glaring example of this is the deteriorating water system, with basic infrastructure failures becoming a regular occurrence. Henyard has attempted to blame budget cuts for these issues, but the residents of Dalton aren't buying it. They see the cuts to services and the mismanagement of funds as evidence that their mayor is more focused on preserving her grip on power than addressing the real needs of the community. As Henyard pushes forward with her re-election campaign, she is facing increasing calls for her resignation. Critics have labeled her the worst mayor in America, and it's not difficult to understand why. With the city in financial turmoil, essential services at risk, and Henyard embroiled in a series of scandals, it seems that the people of Dalton have had enough. As Henyard continues to fight for her position, she faces a difficult road ahead. Her re-election bid is now in full swing, but it remains to be seen whether the residents of Dalton will support her or finally decide that they've had enough. The mounting investigations, legal troubles, and growing public dissatisfaction paint a grim picture for the future of her administration. The coming months will be critical as Henyard tries to navigate these challenges while continuing to assert her control over the town. Ultimately, the fate of Dalton lies in the hands of its residents. They are the ones who will decide whether Henyard's reign of chaos continues or whether it's time for a change. As the story unfolds, one thing is clear: the people of Dalton are no longer willing to sit idly by while their city descends into turmoil.